Hi folks, my name's Ron Feller. I make masks, and today I'd like to show you how to make a wonderful panda mask using simple materials, paper, scissors, and glue. We start our mask with a folded piece of construction paper. Notice I'm folding that paper lengthwise. And the reason we're doing that is because we're also going to use some templates to get us off to a good start. Oftentimes we're working with large groups, and to make sure everyone's successful, these templates really help. All we have to do is set that template, the straight edge, along the fold of the construction paper. And with a pencil, draw a guideline around the template. Now, to add dimension to our masks, we're including a jaw and an eyebrow. And our paper should look like this, the beginning of our mask. Of course, the next thing we're going to do is get out our scissors and very carefully cut out that image. When we're working with children and they are making masks, I always tell them when they're cutting to turn their item that they're cutting with their left hand and just work those scissors up and down so they make nice, crisp, clean cuts. Cutting out the ears now, and since our paper's folded in half, I know I'm going to have two ears, the top of the head, and then we're going to cut out the brow. And finally, the jaw. Now, of course, our panda is going to need a mouth. So, right in the middle of that jaw, I'm going to cut out half of a mouth. Cut here, pull my scissors out, and make another cut, and let that piece fall out. And when I open my mask, it looks like this. I know it looks a little strange, but not for long, because the next thing we're going to do is fold that brow over the front of our mask to create a jaw and an eyebrow. And then I'm going to reverse the folds of all those paper, and this is the beginning of our mask. Now, to make this mask look a little more realistic, I could fold it up and make some cuts along the side to give you the illusion of fur. And we're ready to use our glue for the first time. The glue, to glue this piece in place, we're just going to put a little bit of glue just in the corners of the eyebrow. We don't need a lot of glue. The less glue, the better. Hold it in place for just a few seconds, and we're ready to start decorating. We have a polar bear, but now we're going to turn it into a panda. And to do that, I'm going to take a piece of black paper. This has been cut into 6x9 size, and I'm going to fold it in half. And to make the ears for our panda, now you all realize that pandas have black ears, so I'm going to set that piece of paper underneath the ear and draw an ear that's just a little bit larger than the white ear. Now, the reason I'm making it a little larger is so that I know it's going to cover the white. After I've drawn around that ear, take my scissors and very carefully cut out the ear shape. Notice I'm turning my paper with my left hand while I cut with my right to make nice crisp cuts. And I have two ears, one for the right side, one for the left, and with a little bit of glue, I can glue those pieces in place. other side. Starting to look a little bit more like a panda with black ears. Now, pandas have a mask around their eyes, and that mask can be created with the rest of that piece of black paper. All you have to do is cut out a rounded shape. Notice the paper's folded still, and when I cut out these two shapes at the same time, they're going to be balanced. One will go on one side of the mask and one on the other. With how much glue? That's right, a little bit of glue. Doesn't take much. Okay, here's my panda so far. So far, so good. Now, today we're going to be making the eyes out of other pieces of construction paper, and we're going to make them in three different phases: an eyeball, irises, the colored part of the eye, and the black pupils. And so I'm going to need some smaller pieces of paper to do that. For the eyeballs, the irises, and I can just use this scrap for the pupils. Now, if I want to make two eyeballs that look the same, I'm going to fold my paper in half, draw the eyeball that I want, and cut it out. And I know I'll have two eyeballs that will be exactly alike. And then I will need some irises. So I'm going to choose a color, in this case some green, and I'm going to make two at the same time by folding it in half and making a slightly smaller shape to fit inside the eyeball. Here are my two irises. Right there in the middle of that eyeball. And now all I need are the pupils. And with this scrap, I can cut out the same shape, but this time I'm going to make it very small. The eyes are so important to your mask. That's what gives your mask its personality. There we go. Okay, now my panda can see. Now if I want to make those eyes look a little bit more interesting, with that same scrap of paper, I could make some eyelids. If you want to make eyelids, all you have to do is cut out a crescent shape that's just a little bit longer than the eyeball. Start by cutting out a hill, and then turn that hill into a crescent. So you have a shape like this. And then to turn it into an eyelid, all you have to do is curl this end and this end to make it pop up a little bit, and run a bead of glue along the very top edge. Now make sure you get the glue all the way out to the edge of that eyelid, so that when you set it down above the eyeball, it will pop out just a little bit and make those eyes look a little bit more interesting. Let's put the other one on. First, I'm going to curl it over my thumb very gently. You just want to turn the fibers of the paper a little bit. And remember, the glue goes on the top edge. Get it as close to the edge as you possibly can. And then set it down above the eyeball. Now our panda has some interesting eyes, but he needs a nose. And we still have plenty of paper left over from this scrap to create a nose. And to make a nose, all you have to do is cut out a shape kind of like a heart shape, like half of a Valentine. But in this case, I'm not going to put a dip at the top. I'm just going to round it off a little bit. And I'm cutting out half of a nose starting at the fold. So we end up with a shape something like this. And with a little bit of glue, I'm going to set it right on the top of that jaw. And our panda is starting to look more interesting. Now, there are all kinds of things you could add at this point. You could, to decorate your panda. For instance, some of you might want to make a bow. If you wanted to make a bow for your panda, you could start with a folded piece of paper, cut out half of a knot, and then the rest of the bow, and then the bottom part of the knot. And when you unfold it, you have a really good shape that can be used maybe as a bow tie. I love bow ties, so oftentimes I'll add a bow tie to my mask. Or you might want to put a bow in her hair, like that. Some of you might want to make a hat. Hats are easy to make. You probably already have guessed what I'm going to do with my paper. If I fold that piece of paper in half and think of that just half of a hat, I can make it in two sections and give that hat some real dimension. I could start by cutting out kind of a hot dog shape to make the brim. And to make that brim fit on the top of my panda's head, all I have to do is make a very small cut starting at the fold, and then slide that hat brim right over my panda's head like this. And then with the rest of the paper, I can make that hat any shape I want. I could make a top hat. I could make a bowler hat. You might make a baseball cap. But you want to think of cutting just half of the hat. And then with a little bit of glue at the very bottom, all you have to do is slide that underneath the brim to make a hat that has some dimension. Looks pretty spiffy. Now that mouth opening, we could do some things with that as well. If you had some other colors of paper, you might want to add some color in the background to make the mouth stand out just a little bit. And to do that, I'm just going to cut a little piece of pink, slide that underneath the jaw, which makes that mouth look a little bit more interesting. And at this point, I could add, food. I could add any of a number of things to that mouth to make it look a little bit more interesting. Now, these masks that we're talking about today can be made in lots of different sizes. Some of you might want to make some miniature pandas. And the nice thing about miniature pandas, they can be used on gift cards, or you might just want to frame a miniature and give it as a gift. You could make turn these masks into puppets, adding a body. I've seen children really make life-size pandas using other pieces of construction paper. Let's see, what else could we do with this? Oh, they make nice wall pieces. Sometimes you can, by just putting a piece of masking tape on the back, and children can put it on their wall in their rooms. It's a nice way to decorate a space, and it's a nice way to make masks for plays and other productions. Now, if you want to be able to see out of this mask, obviously there are a couple of different ways we can do this. We could turn this into a handheld mask by adding a rod to the back, but oftentimes with an X-Acto blade, and this is something that adults would have to do, but we cut little slits underneath the eyes. Now the advantage of this is you're going to be able to see out of the mask through these little openings, but the people looking at the production are going to see a mask with some personality because the eyes are going to show. And so this is a good way to be able to see out of your mask. Just cut a little crescent shape right underneath the eyeball. And then you could attach this to your head with an elastic band, or you could even make a helmet out of paper so that you could see out of the mask and move comfortably. Well, this is a real quick demonstration on how to make a panda mask. I hope you try it because they really are fun to make, and boys and girls and adults love making pandas. So good luck to you, and have fun making masks. Remember, paper, scissors, and glue, simple materials, and you can have a world of fun. Bye-bye.